My name is Daniel Miller. I'm captain in the United States Marine Corps, currently stationed as a company commander with the All-Marine Wrestling Team in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. With us today, we also have Ryan Johnson with USA Wrestling and Major retired Jay Antonelli. Quick story, one of the first times I ever ran into Major was during plebe summer. I believe we're doing one of our wrestling practices or our plebe smoker, and I went up to him and I asked him, as a incoming midshipman, I said, sir, how long have you been in the Marine Corps? And he answered me and he said, well, I've been in the Marine Corps for 18 years. Innocently at the time, I replied and said, sir, you realize you've been in the Marine Corps longer than I've ever been alive. And instantly put my foot in my mouth and realized what I had said. And Major took it, he rolled with the punches and he was like, no, I do now. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Major, but I just wanted to share that quick tidbit from early on meeting you. What great attitude you have about dealing with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My name is Jay Antonelli, 1992 graduate of the Naval Academy, and currently work back at Navy. And I was a Marine, spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I'm retired. And I tell you, if I had a chance, I'd do it all again. I absolutely love my job and I love my time as a Marine. It's been a wonderful experience.
And Jay, what are you doing now?
So I'm a senior associate athletic director at Navy, and I'm the director of physical education. So at the Navy, our mission is to develop midshipmen morally, mentally, physically. I own that physical piece. So it's exciting. I enjoy it.
So Captain Miller, not the only plebe to put his foot in his mouth?
Oh, no, they do. I had plebes doing that every day. It's kind of fun.
Good deal. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, guys. To start off with, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your MOS is, or what yours was, Jay. And first of all, telling us what is an MOS, and then what does that mean for you specifically in the Marine Corps?
So every Marine's a rifleman first. That's what makes the Marine Corps so unique, in that we all train basic rifleman tactics from right from the start. So everybody has that training, but we do have different specialties, and a Marine occupational specialty is what MOS stands for. When I graduated from the basic school after my 6 months of initial Marine training, I was a air defense officer. That's what I started as, and I was trained down in Fort Bliss, Texas, and how to shoot down airplanes. And I guess from there wasn't much of an air threat anymore in the early 90s. And an opportunity came up for me to go wrestle for the Marine Corps. And I jumped on that opportunity. And that's why I ended up, working for the Marine Corps wrestling program.
Awesome. And Captain Miller, what about yourself?
So I'm a 3002 by trade, which is a ground supply officer. But as Major Antonelli said, every Marine is a rifleman. And so, before getting my designator as a 3002, I actually did a short period of time on orders at the Naval Academy under the tutelage of Major Antonelli, working in the physical education department, and then also attended the basic school, as every Marine Corps officer does after commissioning in Quantico, Virginia, studying MCDP-1 warfighting, which is our current, rifleman, infantryman doctrine.
Very cool. So on top of all those duties, what made you guys decide you wanted to participate in wrestling and be on the All-Marine Wrestling Team as well?
For me, after I didn't achieve everything I wanted to when I competed in college, and I thought that I was a late bloomer and I wanted to compete more, and the opportunity came again, like within the Marine Corps, my job. There wasn't much of an air threat anymore after they trained me to be an air threat, to take down airplanes. So an opportunity came up for me to go try out for the Marine Corps program, and I went up there and succeeded and ended up, competing for 4 years for the Marine Corps, and I absolutely, loved doing it. And then after competing for 4 years and trying to, reach all my goals, I didn't never reach them all except for the Olympic gold medal, but doing my best. And then I transitioned to coaching because our head coach Dan Mello left, and so I transitioned over to the coaching role.
Very cool. And Captain Miller, same to you?
Yeah, for me, it started a little bit earlier on. I wasn't exposed to a lot of the freestyle and Greco-Roman world prior to attending the Naval Academy. And then at the time, head coach Bruce Burnett made a big emphasis in off-season freestyle wrestling, and I had pretty good success in that, making a junior world team in 2011 and going over to Romania and competing there. And it was a phenomenal experience, being overseas and, embodying, essentially what the SISM mantra is now, which is friendship through sport. Being a military member and athlete overseas, interacting with all these different countries, it was a life-changing experience for me. And so actually, Major Antonelli is the one who, first introduced me to the idea of the All-Marine Wrestling team, because he was coaching as well when I was a student athlete. And, after graduating, I did a little bit of time in the fleet with 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and did a deployment to Okinawa. And we did a lot of cool stuff out there in the Pacific. And then when we came back, there's a limited amount of time that you can really take advantage of being an athlete. There's a window in your lifetime where it's going to close at some point. And so I wanted to explore how far I could go in my athletic career, specifically in wrestling. And the Marine Corps, I'm fortunate enough that they offered me that opportunity. And so I'm exploiting it to my best advantage.
Very cool. And within the Marine Corps, the clock to compete as a senior level athlete is not indefinite, right? I mean, they want you to have a limited specified window for when you're trying to make world and Olympic teams, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, as with anything, as leadership changes, the mission changes, and, the goals of the program or where they want the program to go may change. At the end of the day, the Marine Corps is centered around excellence and trying to produce excellent results, whether that's on the battlefield, whether it's, in technology warfare, or, whether it's in sports, specifically in wrestling. So I've been fortunate to continue to be a part of this program for a couple years now. And, with the Olympics coming up, we're hoping to capitalize on everything, all the resources that they put into me.
Very cool. And so how does this delay, the current obstacles that we're facing, how has that impacted your ability to train and compete to make a world and Olympic team? And then also with the Marine Corps duties you have on top of that?
Yeah, so, first and foremost, this was a great opportunity for our command to really step up. A lot of our guys were scheduled to move back into deployable forces at the conclusion of the 2020 Olympics, so October of 2020. And once the Olympics got moved, they really started grinding their gears and did a lot of legwork to get all of those orders changed based on exception to policy. And so we're thankful and grateful that we will still have the opportunity to continue to pursue that. As far as the training goes, and I know that, Jay, you're dealing with a lot of unique stuff down there, or up there, I guess, in Annapolis as well. But, for us, it's just trying to find what the safest way is to return to train, and taking advantage of what we're allowed to do. So for a period of time, we pretty much shut everything down. So the Marine Corps and the Department of Defense put out a stop movement, and for the most part, all physical training was also it was a ceasefire, complete stop on all of that, at least for organized group training. And so at that point, we pretty much were on our own to get our equipment, do our training on our own, whether that be with throwing dummies, lifting weights, running, swimming, etc. A lot of it is base building, but also trying to make sure that you're getting whatever technique you can in, whether that be shadow drills, or like I said, with the dummies, but also focusing on your mental training at that point as well, because, the perseverance and determination, persevering through adversity is something that Marines take, extreme pride in. So, this is just one opportunity to really practice that. So eventually they open the fitness facilities back up, and but we still aren't able to travel anywhere. So right now we're kind of in a base building phase where We're doing a lot of running, a lot of weightlifting, circuit training, et cetera, and honestly building an extremely strong base to capitalize off of once we're able to move back into contact training, which we're hoping will be here shortly.
Yeah, the challenges don't seem to have a real end in sight at this point. And Jay, would love to hear, what Captain Miller alluded to with what's going on at the Naval Academy, but then also you had a really unique role, as a head coach for the All-Marine team around the time of September 11th, and when our country was facing a very different crisis. And would love to hear about how your experience was shaped during those moments.
Yeah. So, what's going on right now? So at Navy, the incoming freshman class, the plebes, they showed up a week later than they normally do. And then they had to sit in a 2-week quarantine to make sure they were all clean before we started training. And the training, still was knocked down a little bit from a 7-week program to a 4-week program. So we had to really pack stuff into a short training window. I think a couple, lessons learned. I think with the whole lifestyle of America in the spring, of very sedentary and everything virtual online, not much working out got done. And then on top of that, with a 2-week quarantine where not much working out was being done, on top of record heat here, we started off, and I tried to, make up for lost time, and I came out the door sprinting, and man, we put a couple kids in the hospital, which wasn't too cool. So we backed it up a little bit, and we make sure we maintain a safe environment and still effectively train the plebes. So it's been challenging, definitely what I'm going through now, because every day, I guess, doctors are learning new things about the virus. And so when you think you're working with, the plebes who are technically, because they have been in a quarantine, are clean, I have to keep a distance because I go home every day and I have a chance for exposure. So it's definitely a working environment, but we're definitely still challenging the plebes too. The second part of your question, I guess, was the other, momentous, an infamous event where, September 11th, and what that happened while I was coaching the Marine team. That was a pretty touchy time, I tell you what. So SISMs that year were in Croatia, for example, and they were in October. So we didn't even know if SISMs was still going to go, but we did, right? And SISMs was a go, and we all traveled over there. And while we were over there, the night before opening ceremonies, we started bombing Afghanistan. I remember that clearly because it happened on my birthday, October 7th. We started bombing Afghanistan. So that put a different light on SISMs and friendship through sport, the model they follow, right, during war, right? So, but we went through it, and some teams didn't participate that year, especially teams from those regions. The Middle East, a lot of teams didn't come, but we persevered and competed and did the best that we can with considering the circumstances. And actually, we were pretty successful. We had, I think, 3 medals that year, so it was good SISM event. Right after moving forward, the team still operated while we were at war in Afghanistan, and then the Iraq War kicked off too. We had and we kept operating, kept competing. Numbers and getting new Marines to the team to try out were a little bit more difficult, but we were still able to function. And then right after the 2004 Olympic trials, that's when I got called. I got a set of orders to head over to Iraq, and that's where I spent 7 months over there in Iraq.
So as the head coach for the All-Marine team while you're deployed, how did you maintain communication with your team? How did you continue to inspire and motivate people? And that's something that we're all working with now, is how do we build connections and maintain relationships with people virtually, right? But you've got some unique experience trying to do that.
Yeah, and I couldn't, right? And the Marine Corps recognized that I couldn't be in charge and effectively run a team that was still competing. So that's when I called a quick meeting, and I took my officer in charge at the time, Dan Hicks, and he transitioned into the coaching position, the head coaching position, and then he took the reins on from there. and he did a very successful job with the program before he was finished.
Very cool. So with, in light of all these challenges, both, COVID and the ones that we faced during September 11th, how do you guys maintain your motivation, or what inspires you to continue pushing, whether it's, your own personal shape, like Captain Miller working out in your living room instead of in the wrestling room, or having training partners, you just shadow drilling instead, or Jay, working with the new plebes coming in the Naval Academy. How do you keep people, both yourselves and others around you, inspired?
Dan, you can go first.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'll speak from my perspective on this. As still being an active athlete, so obviously it's a little fresher in my mind because we're going through it right now. But for me, when I'm training, especially on my own, it's actually motivated by everything but myself. When you look at all the time and energy and resources that have been poured into me and my training and development, and to just let that go by the wayside. Time that I'm given, time is the most valuable asset that we have. And, just because something, you can't see something, light hasn't been shed on it, doesn't mean that the enemy is not continuing to get better, and obviously what we're, right now, our primary focus is sport and, reflecting that in sport. And so we continue to develop, physically, mentally, and professionally in an effort to, be a better sportsman and also be a better Marine, be a better father, be a better husband. If you're a woman, to be a better wife, a better mother, a better sister, whatever that may be, challenging yourself to get better every day because of what everyone else has put into you. Like when I'm practicing on my own, I know that when I go back to training with other people, I'm going to be able to make them better faster because I'm more prepared to do that. I'm more prepared to lead. I'm more prepared to do those things, to when I get called out on the mat, go and perform, to when I get called out to go do a deployment like what happened to Jay, unexpectedly, that I'm prepared to do that at any time, because it's basically about doing right by those people. And so for everyone who's put effort into you up to this point and all the resources that have been put into you, taking advantage of all of that, making sure that you understand what all that is, and then also accepting the responsibility that you have, especially as a Marine, to all of the people you will be in charge of or alongside in the future.
Well said. Jay, do you have anything to add on to that?
I'll tell you what keeps me motivated. Actually, I have a newborn son who's 10 months old, and someday he's going to want to try to take me on a wrestling match. So I got to make sure that 16 years from now or 17 years from now, I can still beat him up. That's what keeps me motivated. No, seriously. I mean, well, that is part of it, but a lot of it too. Hey, I got to set the example for these mids that are coming in, and if I'm asking them to stay in shape and doing their best, I have to lead from the front. I'm the one who's got to set the example and set a standard that these guys have to meet, and that's what keeps me going. Right? It keeps me young, keeps things exciting, and I challenge myself every day. I always say, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and I think Marines are really good at that, right? And they expect that. They expect that plans are going to change, and we adapt, and we're successful, most successful military organization in the world because we can adapt so readily. When things get thrown our way, you can lay plans, but the best laid plans get thrown out the window first contact with the enemy. And so we kind of go through this where we have to remain flexible in the way we adapt to the current situation. And that's what we're doing now, right? So yes, I'm operating under different guidelines, just like Dan, but the end state stays the same where we want to compete and we want to win, right? Where I'm not competing anymore, but I still want my guys to compete and win with the RTC that I'm working with, or I want my students at the Naval Academy to do well and get the very best out of their physical performance on the physical readiness exam. So maintaining flexibility in this type of environment, and those couple things keep me motivated to go.
And Dan, I wanted to follow up on one of the things you mentioned, talking about all the people that have poured into you and helped you get to where you're at. Who are some of the people specifically that come to mind that really mentored you, both within your journey as a Marine and as a wrestler?
We got one on the line right here
Yeah.
with us. Major
Thanks,
Antonelli, played a huge role, not only in my development as an athlete, specifically in college, but even afterwards, as a Greco athlete, I've had the opportunity to go on a couple of overseas trips with him and work with Major, after college. And it's been phenomenal, especially because I think he considers that his concentration, and now I've kind of bloomed into that. But also for my development as a Marine, he was one of the guys who was always a role model for me. And, some little boys and girls know when they're kids that they want to be Marines when they grow up, or they want to, be in some sort of military service. And that wasn't me. I grew up on the beach in Ocean City, Maryland, and I worked on a marina, and I surfed when I wasn't working, and I lived the beach life. And, I got recruited to wrestle, and, I didn't start wrestling until high school. And my high school coach has, since passed away, Kevin Gilligan, but, he really brought me into the sport and taught me a lot of the lessons that wrestling inherently teaches you as an athlete. That hard work pays off, that, like what Major said, get comfortable being uncomfortable. Those are valuable skills, being able to persevere through adversity, that sometimes no matter how hard you work, you're not going to be successful, and you have to continue working until you are. And so he taught me a lot of that stuff and laid the groundwork. Bruce Burnett, again, another Naval Academy mentor, really brought me into the Olympic styles of wrestling while I was at the Naval Academy. And I could go on and on about all the Marines who were on the Guard. Marine Corps and the Department of Navy does a phenomenal job of picking who they put in position there to inspire midshipmen to make the right decisions that best suits them. And so there's a ton of role models that I have there that led me to becoming a Marine. But after becoming a Marine, my first logistics officer who I worked with at 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, really taught me a lot about officership. And this is when I really started to take ownership of the way that I lead and understand what it really meant to be a Marine. And up to that point, I understood it was valuable, but really starting to foster the love for being a Marine didn't start until I was in the fleet. And so I'm thankful for that period of time. And I had a great group of guys that I work with that, were my peers when we were on deployment. But that logistics officer really helped me develop as a leader of Marines and as a person. And, if you've ever heard me talk in any interview, most of my praise goes to Jason Lukitas. As far as in the Greco world, I mean, I came in, I was ready to quit, with not a lot of Greco background. And, he's taken me from that to two-time national champ, a couple-time national team member. I've been fortunate enough to work with him in wrestling, but he also cares about the whole athlete and has the time to commit to those athletes. So, one thing that's unique about my relationship with him is that I'm the company commander of the wrestling team. So I'm the senior officer right now and work right alongside him as the head coach and really the head representative of the organization. And so I've been able to pick his brain for the last few years, and he's really helped me develop, that mental aspect of things in my personal life as well. How do I handle certain situations? How do I see things from other people's perspective instead of only seeing it from mine? And understanding that, maybe I'm the problem and that we need to come together to find a solution for how I can be better, as opposed to, assuming certain things should be done because that's the way that I would do them, et cetera. So I know that's a lot of information. I know that's a lot of people, and there are so many more that I could really give credit to. But as far as wave top highlights, those are the big ones for me.
Well, it's an individual sport, and within the Marine, I'm sure there's a lot of things you do on your own, but it's part of a team and everyone getting on the same page with trying to accomplish the same goal within an individual context. And so there's a lot of similarities there. And you mentioned as Jay as one of your mentors. Jay, who are some of your mentors coming up, and now how do you pay it forward within the role that you have now at the Naval Academy?
Wow, many people have made great positive impact on my life. My father for sure taught me like not to quit, and a lot of those things that just persevere, through adversity and make it through. That was big for me. At the Naval Academy, our assistant coach, our coaching staff, we had Reg Wicks, and then our assistant coach Pete Schuyler. He was an amazing individual who would just he really instilled a really high level work ethic, for me. I was kind of like Dan. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and going to the Naval Academy. I was the first in my family being in the military. I was recruited to come wrestle there, and I didn't know what I was getting into when I became a Marine. And as a Marine, I mean, I got to work alongside some pretty unique individuals. Master Sergeant Gibson, Olympic silver medalist. He definitely showed me a lot, right? Working alongside him, we competed together, and then he was still competed, but also helped me as my assistant coach. And when I was coaching the Marines, definite positive impact on my life. And then I still learn from those around me every day. The Naval Academy, like Dan alluded to, also they're very smart in who they pick to come here, right? Some of the best cream of the crop people come here to develop our future leaders of America. And there's great individuals. I had to work with General Sattler, got to work alongside him, and still do currently in his role with our RTC as the president of the board. And I learned a lot from him and from Bruce Burnett. Bruce Burnett instilled a lot in me, and I watched that way he operated and worked with programs while coach on his coaching staff at Navy. Unbelievable mentor.
Yeah, Coach Burnett certainly has a strong legacy here at USA Wrestling too, and leading our men's freestyle team through some of the most glorious times of our history as well.
I have one. I do have one. I totally overlooked. Oh my God, Steve Frazier. I mean, what I learned from Steve and the Greco.
He'll be watching, so he was going to make sure to call us out.
Sure, he probably would have called me out. No, man, him and that whole group with Dan Chandler and Rob Herman. Those guys. I was the young coach when those guys were in their coaching prime, and Steve led us to the 2007 world title. It was just a chemistry of all of us together, and Ivanoff, and that whole group that we put something together that was magical, with that team. Steve Frazier and Herman and Chandler, huge influences on my coaching career.
Very good. And yeah, we checked the box on mentioning Frazier, so we're good there. And I wanted to expand a little bit on something you mentioned, Dan, just how wrestling instills certain characteristics and values in you. And what are those characteristics, and how did your high school and college experience in wrestling prepare you for life in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest indicators of that is the partnership that the Marine Corps has with USA Wrestling, right? And sports in general develop certain skills, and some of those skills would be how to lead your peers, how to work as a team, how to pick others up and make them better, how to seek help when you need it, how to persevere through adversity, how to develop determination, how to motivate yourself. All of these skills are inherent to the majority of sports. And then you go into wrestling, okay? And so one of the best things about wrestling is that it's a combat sport that is practiced at almost every level, right? And so if you're a wrestler, you're willing to go out there and start a fight, because that's what you're doing. That's what the sport is. The sport is a combat. It is a representation of combat. You go out there and try to impose your will on the enemy, which is your opponent. And so that mental ability, or the mental strength that you're developing every time you do that, and you're not even just going out there to fight when you go out there for a match. Every day you go to practice, it's going to be a fight, and sometimes it escalates to an actual fight. And so, that's the nature of the beast. But that is exactly what we look for in the Marine Corps, is that fighting spirit, that ability to develop a brother and sisterhood of unbreakable bonds that you find in a lot of sports teams. In fact, I'd say in all of the best sports teams throughout history, they do have that unbreakable bond, and there have been studies on it, and there have been, multitudes of, documentaries or books written on exactly what that dynamic looks like. And that unit cohesion is developed very similarly in the Marine Corps as it is to sports. And the sport that most closely aligns with the Marine Corps, what we do and how we operate, is wrestling. And obviously, I say all sports because, the Marine Corps does programs like their leadership academies and whatnot, and they do it for other sports, I think like basketball, volleyball, and soccer, and they're looking for athletes. But the focus is on wrestlers because, like at the Naval Academy, and Jay, you'll have to help me out. I can't remember the coach's name there for boxing. But what he says is the reason we do boxing is because everyone in the military should know what it feels like to get hit in the face. But if you're a wrestler, you don't have to worry about what it feels like to get hit in the face because your face is hitting the mat all the time. You're using your head as a tool against people's knees, their shins, their elbows, their forearms, and you are fighting every day. And that's what we want. We want warriors.
Jay, anything to add on to that? It's certainly preaching to the choir from my perspective.
Yeah, we're absolutely sure. It's Jim McNally, Coach McNally, right?
There you go.
And not only what does it feel like to get hit in the face, but what do you do when you do get hit in the face? Do you cower up or do you counterattack, right? So, this partnership, when I was coaching back in the Marines, we had a partnership with USA Wrestling, and then you got, it's changed over the years and morphed, and now we have this great partnership, and it's exactly what it is, right? Wrestlers make great Marines. It's all that determination and grit that is instilled in a wrestler that just transitions really well to being a successful Marine. And they go hand in hand. So it's a great partnership.
Good deal. And one of the topics that you both touched on a little bit, Jay talking about the 2007 World Championship Greco team, and Dan talking about just the cohesion that you develop within a wrestling team or within a Marine unit. The All-Marine team has had some pretty good success in recent years. A number of U.S. Open champions, such as yourself, a number of world team members, 2 last year with John Stefanowicz and Raymond Bunker. Talk about what is going on inside the All-Marine team right now and just the culture that's present there. And then just would love to get your guys' thoughts on what it takes to build and create a winning culture within a team or a unit.
Yeah, so, as far as, what we have going on right now, first and foremost, is unique. And so it's one of those environments that you hunt for as an athlete where, you can feed off of each other. Everyone can make each other better. And not only can they do it, they want to do that, and it goes back to, we talked about what motivates me before, and it's everyone else when we get in the wrestling room. They're all those guys, and we don't have any gals in there right now. But, we've had them in the past, and we look forward to having them again in the future. So the guys and gals who have been, or will be members of this program, hopefully continue this, but feed off of each other and want to make each other better. And we feel each other's losses. We feel each other's pain, whether that's in sports or in your personal life or professionally, whatever it may be. But we also share in each other's victories. When Ray Bunker goes out there and wins a U.S. Open, after I've lost as a defending national champion, it feels terrible, and everyone feels terrible that I'm not out there winning a national title. But we all feel terrible for each other, but we share in that victory, and we know that we've all played a part in that victory. We are part of the resources that have been poured into that Marine, into that athlete. And for me, that's a huge part of the culture, is not just wanting yourself to get better, but wanting everyone around you to get better. And not only, feeling bad in your losses, but sharing the burden of the loss with your teammates, with your brothers and your sisters, but also sharing in their victories and building them up, and continuing to make them better. And also, setting the bar high, right? Because, if you only look to the moon, then you're never going to go past the moon. If you only look to the closest star, right, the sun, then you're only going to get to the sun. If you look as far as you possibly can, know that you can still go beyond that. So setting that bar higher and, not making it so that it's a destructive thing. You want it to never be good enough in a positive way. Celebrate benchmarks, but continue to raise the bar. And that sets a culture of growth where you can see unsurmountable progress. And that's one of the things that Jason brings to the table. And it's also a part of the Marine Corps culture. And, going back to Jason, one of the things you say, what's changing is, he provides athletes with the tools that they need. And that tool might be different for me than it is for Sergeant Johnson, than it is for Lieutenant Johnson, than it is for Sergeant Bunker. Everyone's tool set is going to be different. But also, like, knowing that even though I might not hit the same stuff that Staff Sergeant Stefanowicz does, I know how to hit it. It's in my toolbox. It's just that it's been something that works for him and it develops for him. So exposing our athletes to that, giving them opportunities. The Marine Corps has poured phenomenal resources into us. I mean, Recruiting Command has given us the opportunity to go out and across the country. Oklahoma City. We've gone to NCAAs multiple times. Marine Week, Nashville, Detroit, Charlotte. We've gone out to San Diego multiple times. Virginia, all over the place, and to interact with young people and inspire them to be better. And we try to give all of our Marines opportunities to do that. A non-sport-based purpose, basically, give back to the community. And so it's not about you as an individual or your performance. It's about, what can I give back to people? What can I give to my teammates? What can I give to my coach? Because they've given me so much. So that's kind of what a snapshot of the culture that we have. And how we've gotten there is, it starts with the first step. The first time that you realize that win isn't just about you. That loss isn't just about you, that you all share in that. And at the end of the day, one of the things that's great about being a Marine athlete is, win or lose, I'm coming home and I'm still a Marine. And regardless of how long we get to enjoy this ride of sport, at the end of it and at the beginning of it, we're still Marines. And to me, that's beautiful.
Jay, anything to add on to that?
Well, I mean, it goes down to leadership. And I don't know, and I'm not there talking with I speak to the guys, but I'm not there working every day. So at the Marine Corps program, so I can't really touch on that. I just am delighted I get the opportunity now and then to coach one of these great guys and one of these Marines on any of these international tours that I do, or some of the other, national stuff. I thoroughly enjoy that. They got a great dynamic going there right now, right? And, and it does. It feeds on itself. I tell you, one of the biggest things and reasons for our success in 2007 was the leadership by Brad Bering. And he provided some great leadership, and he held everybody accountable, right? Because we were a team, a tight-knit group, and it wasn't just the guys who competed. We knew it was all the training partners, and it was all in. And, when a group is tight like that, they hold each other accountable, right? And you can't be afraid if I call you out for not giving it your best in practice. That's okay, right? You got to be able to do those things and hold people accountable. And then together as a unit, you succeed. And that's what makes great teams.
And so maybe last question here, so we don't take up the rest of your guys' afternoon. But Jay, you're getting, plebes at the Naval Academy that maybe haven't bought in yet, right? They might not understand that concept of team wins or team losses yet. How do you help create that culture within those units? And same with you, Captain Miller, when someone new is coming into that room, how do you get them to see the light and buying into that team culture?
Man, that's a trick. Some people need a pat in the back. Some people need a boot in the ass, right? So it just depends. But you try to instill instead of standard, right? And you can't cut corners to get to that standard. And then you call people out on it, right? And then before you know it, they start calling each other out on it, and they start pushing each other, to go and push that envelope and get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden it starts to gel, right? The team starts to come together, and the plebes, at least the successful plebes, right? The ones that go through plebe summer and do well, they buy in early, and they start, leadership is not a popularity contest, right? Leadership is, it's about bringing a team, a unit to mission success. It's not about popularity. And yeah, when you hold each other accountable and you're all part and you're all bought into the mission, then things start to gel pretty well, and good things happen.
So Captain Miller, were you a pat on the back or the other kind of plebe?
No, he was definitely a pat on the back. So
yeah, maybe it depends on who you ask. If you ask me, I'd say I wasn't a one booter. I was a multiple booter, and I probably got multiple from both Jay and his brother Brian, but they always kept me straight. Yeah, I also just wanted to touch on a couple extra things, like what Major's saying, accountability, extremely important, holding each other accountable, and that starts from the top. And I think one of the best ways that you can start doing that as well is through sacrifice, sacrificing your time or your efforts for someone else, which then inspires them to sacrifice for their other teammates. And then you start helping those around you understand that how important they are to you and how important all of those aspects are. Because if I'm willing to give up my time, my effort, if I'm willing to give my commitment to them, then they're usually willing to give it to me or to reciprocate that to someone else. And so I think that that's usually a real good way to start the fire is, just lay yourself down and say, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And I think, Major's being a little modest because that's exactly what him and the entire coaching staff did for me when I was at the academy. And that's exactly what, all of my mentors have done. And that's what all of my teammates do for me now. And, I express enough thanks for them doing that. And hopefully I can continue to try to do the same for them. And maybe I'll be able to repay some of those debts. But I know that I'll continue trying to pay it forward either way.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much to both of you guys for joining us. I know I'm always inspired anytime I get a chance to get on the phone with folks in the Marines, and just very grateful for all you guys do and continue to inspire, the entire wrestling community with your efforts. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you guys hopefully on the mat in the not too distant future. We got some events coming back online in October. So, as long as things continue to trend positively, hopefully we'll see some folks on the mat soon. And again, just thank you guys so much for all you've done for wrestling and for our country. Any final thoughts from you guys?
We just want to thank you, Ryan, for giving us the opportunity to, talk about this and talk about the great partnership that USA Wrestling and the Marine Corps has. Thank you.
Likewise, Ryan, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you bringing us together for this. Major, as always, great to hear from you. Great to hear you doing well. Hope the wife and kids are also doing great. To any of the wrestlers who are watching this, keep doing what you're doing, keep fighting the fight, keep stepping out on that mat. And for all the Marines who are watching this, just know that there's a generation of young wrestlers coming up who are going to be hard chargers and coming in to fill in our yellow footprints.
Fantastic. Well, can't wrap it up any better than that. Thanks so much, guys. We'll be in touch soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
See ya. Thanks. Bye.